All right, let's go ahead and get started. Well, yeah, for starters, thanks a lot, everyone, for joining. I really appreciate you guys taking your time out of your day to jump on here and go through some stuff here. Really, this webinar is going to be maybe some stuff that I hopefully will be some really kind of brand new, some valuable stuff. We will go over kind of the basics and build up to I think, some pretty kind of advanced features. So I think there'll be a little bit of something for everybody here. It's just really kind of actually a very highly requested webinar topic right now. Just people, just kind of with the current environment of what's going on. People are looking to, do some of these types of activities. I call it the database mining, but basically going back to your client base, looking that over and trying to find some value and find some opportunities. So yeah, what we're going to kind of start with, there's going to be kind of three sections here. It's going to be kind of focusing kind of on the renewal side of things. So I do, think that that's hugely important. And those are some things I think are also kind of like the low hanging fruit, right? A great place to start where you can really capture some quick value. We'll then quickly jump into a refinance opportunities. I think this is a cool one and we can really spend a lot of time. Again, start with maybe some of the more basics and then get into some of the more advanced stuff, which I think would be pretty cool. And then where we'll probably close out is just kind of maybe some reporting, finding, top partners, top clients, top people that you work with. This is a great way to, nurture those types of relationships, and then kind of touching on maybe at the end some non-subject properties, which I think kind of ties in with a lot of those earlier topics, but I think are equally as important. If you are just joining, there is a poll, so we're asking some questions of what you're kind of excited to hear about. There's also a Q&A if you have anything going on during that time. And there's a quick question about the recording, and yes, right? So for anyone who is registered, we'll get a recording of this. So let's dive right into it. Let's just get right into it. I'm going to share my screen here. So first things first, can you guys see that okay? I want to make sure, maybe in the Q&A, maybe Mariah, if you're there, you can kind of confirm that you can see that okay. I'm getting some thumbs up.
It looks good from here.
Good. Awesome. So yeah, so this here is BluMortgage, and so if there are some users out there, maybe your homepage looks a little bit different, and that's okay. And of course, that's just because you can really kind of customize this to make it your own. But for those of you who are a bit new to BluMortgage, this is kind of what you get when you do log in. Where we're going to start here, because you can see that there's some stuff here about, okay, where are my deals right now? So these are for my live deals, and what tasks do I have to do? And of course, those things are important. They're a big part of what BluMortgage does, but less so of a focus for what we're going to be talking about today. What I'd rather talk about today is actually kind of what's hanging out in the bottom left corner here, these upcoming renewals, right? And so when you look here, there's a couple things that stand out right away. So first of all, it's nice to have this report, and this is kind of a standard feature. But very quickly, people start asking, okay, well, what can I do about this? What are some really easy ways that I can make sure someone like Tom Smith is getting the service that he needs? And one thing that I will say is, BluMortgage is what we have. We do have a whole drip campaign. We call it our post-close action plan. And that's a great place to start. So let's start there. And you can do this, as the renewal is coming up. You can do it as soon as you close with Tom. You can really do it at any point in the life cycle of that mortgage. And Tom's going to be, part of that action plan. So what does that look like? What does that feel like? Let's just do a super quick review. And then we can get into some of maybe the more advanced stuff. If you're not quite happy with the action plan, we don't get too offended. That's actually a big part of BluMortgage, making it your own. So starting with, looking at someone like Tom's deal, this maybe was imported from Fialogix or Velocity or Finmo. Of course, we integrate with all of those. And so now we're sitting here with Tom Smith's mortgage. I just got the reminder that his maturity date's coming up. And you know what? I don't have the time to think through what I want to be sending out, a very advanced, very personalized campaign. I just want to use kind of the default option that BluMortgage provides. I can come in here and check that box, initiate action plan. And really, it's as simple as that, right? So when I talked about at the beginning, start basic and go to advanced, we really feel like we hit the two extremes, right? That you can start super, super basic with something like this, or you can go all the way advance of what we're about to get into. One cool thing about this that I will mention, especially if you're starting out with BluMortgage and you're saying, okay, well, this is great, but I don't have time to go one by one by one. One thing you can do is you could come back to kind of your screen here and do what we call an advanced, or pardon me, a mass update. So being able to come in here, selecting everybody that you've closed. Then what you do is come under actions, select mass update, and then that field, initiate action plan, should be there. I can check that box. And by hitting update, all of those people that I've closed with will now be part of that action plan. And it's not just renewals, that's a huge part of it, but it's also kind of mortgage anniversaries and happy birthdays and that sort of thing. So that's kind of the starting point there. And if you're curious, okay, what actually does get sent out? Here's our whole setting area. I'm not going to go into a lot of detail because I think that kind of covers the basics. I'd rather get into some of the more advanced stuff, but at a super high level, what we're looking at for the templates is coming into here, looking at your post close, and you can see exactly what's going to be sent out at what date in that 5-year or 4-year, whatever you have term. And you can see exactly what that looks like. So for example, hey, you've got 7 months until renewal, something super simple like that, which you can edit to make your own. So I kind of flew through that a little bit, but that's really kind of just checking the box on the basic side of things. To get things a little bit now going in the more advanced direction, let's just say you look at this and you say, hey, you know what, 7 months, 5 months, whatever. No, I don't want any of that. I want something super specific, exactly how I want to do it. I want to have phone calls, emails, texts, whatever it could be. And I want those all sending out in a sequence. If that's the case, then what you're going to want to do is actually start setting up a workflow. So how I got here, you can see I'm in the workflow rules section. If I went back to this previous tab, let's go back twice, you can see that I have workflow rules right here. So that's just what I clicked, and that got me into this screen here. So when I'm sitting here now this really kind of gives me that flexibility. So everything we talked about, that's kind of the pre-built BluMortgage stuff that is really powerful. But especially with the time you might have now, you want to make this thing super customized, super personalized. And so you're going to want to come in here, create a workflow under mortgages. I'm just calling this the renewal example, and we'll hit next. And this takes you into a really nice screen that really kind of walks you through exactly how you can set up just about any type of automation, anything that you'd want for these renewals. And so what does this look like? So I can come in here, and if some of you are familiar, maybe you're familiar with these workflow rules, maybe not. But the idea of it is just something automatic happening, right? And so that's the high level concept. And then this screen here kind of walks you through, okay, I want something automatic to happen, but when and how and all of that. And that's going to walk us through it. So let's get into it here. So when do I want to execute this rule? Well, I want it based on the maturity date, of course, right? I want to do it a certain period, probably before the maturity date. So I'm going to click that, and then you can see obviously I can come in here and I can select exactly how far before or after that maturity date. I'm going to do something custom, and for whatever reason, I don't actually know maybe the science behind it, but we find works kind of across the board. Something that's really good for a lot of our teams is right around 7 months. Right? So I'm going to put that in, and actually this should be before, right? 7 months before. And that just seems to be a really good time. Seems to be around the time people are starting to think about it. Can get in there right around or maybe before when the banks are starting to reach out. Can really kind of be that source of truth and establish yourself as that trusted advisor for renewals. So I'll say that 7 months before. What do I want to send this to? Well, I don't want to send it to any deal, especially those ones that maybe didn't go through. So let's just say the ones that are mortgage closed, of course. So that's good. And that's what this area is for, to make sure, hey, I don't want to be sending this to anybody. I just want the people who've actually closed with. And then this gets us into, maybe my favorite area here, which actually defines exactly what happens 7 months before, right? So I can come in here and I can very easily say, okay, I'd like to notify via email. We have a lot of great kind of what we call email notifications, or you can create a brand new one, which I'll do here. And it's very simple. It's a matter of selecting a template. So renewal reminder probably seems like an appropriate one. Naming it, saying renewal reminder to client. and deciding exactly how it gets sent. So that's going to go to not only my borrower, but being able to send it also to my second and third borrower if I have those. So I'll pop that in there. So again, this might be some pretty stuff that some people are used to, maybe not, but now I have that in there. Now it's sitting there. And so now for every single mortgage that I've closed, I'm going to have these types of follow-ups built in. But what I really recommend and what I really like is being able to come in here and do scheduled actions. So now I'm building out a drip campaign instead of just a single email that goes 7 months out. Maybe what I can say is now 60 days later, I want to send maybe another email or maybe the same email, right? I can send out that renewal reminder to client. The really cool thing and what I wanted to talk about here is maybe a more advanced feature real quick is that sure, I can come in here and select the same thing, but what these scheduled actions allow me to do is actually check this box, send this email notification at the best time. So it's actually a pretty cool thing. I'm not going to go into the exact science, but basically it's an AI, right? So it actually looks at all the emails you've ever sent or received to each client and see when do they open it? When do they interact with that client? When does it seem to be the best time when they're actually checking their inbox? It's pretty cool, pretty powerful stuff. And we find that it really does work. So, for these types of things, I really do encourage people to kind of check that box and take advantage of these pretty powerful engines that exist in the CRM to really help with these renewal reminders. So I can hit save and you can see here, that's what this is. You can see Zia is the AI and basically allows you to do that. And you can create this whole sequence. And then what I really suggest to people too is do it in increasing urgency in a way. So, come in here, say, okay, I sent this one email 7 months before. The next one is going to be an AI powered one. And then maybe the one after that in 90 days, not 90 hours, 90 days, then that's going to be my task to actually follow up with this person. I think I have a follow up in here. Yeah. And so you can see this is a really nice sequence. We find a lot of people do this. You could even at any one of these stages come in and actually send a text too, right? So what I actually often recommend is send the email, send the AI powered email, send a text, and then a task to call, right? So it's this increasing order. So hey, if you can capture them early with a quick email, that's great. And hey, if as you get closer, it's a bit more urgent, you want to call out and do it. And we find that works really quite well. So that's kind of the basics with a couple of the more advanced features kind of thrown in as it relates to the renewals. So I'll just hit save for now. We'll probably come back to this in a second, actually. But what I wanted to switch gears kind of slightly into now, and this is actually probably the most requested feature, so I want to spend a good amount of time on it, is basically what we call the renewal, or pardon me, refinance opportunities. And so I'm going to actually jump into my mortgages area here. And this is probably a screen a lot of you, again, are used to from BluMortgage. A nice kind of, screen across like this where you can see the stage of each of your deals. But what I actually prefer for finding my refinance opportunities is actually jumping into what I call my list view, right? So now instead of seeing things in columns, it can actually be kind of tough to build reports. I can see it as a nice list where I see everything in a pretty consolidated way. And so I'm going to start with again, more basic example, one that we find works for really when there was a declining rate environment. So maybe if you rewind 6 months ago, but I think it does a good job illustrating the point, and then we can talk about some stuff that maybe is a bit more relevant today. But basically, what I saw a lot of people doing at that time, and I think we will get to that point in the next couple of years, the rates kind of come up and down, is being able to come in here and saying, hey, show me everybody who has a rate type which is fixed. So let's do that. The rate itself is going to be, let's say, greater than. And what you can see here, these are all parameters that I have about my mortgage. And these are just coming right over from Filogix, Velocity, Finmo, whatever you're using, right into the system. And so this is nothing you're going to have to manually import. It's all sitting here ready to go for you to apply your filters. So I'm going to say, okay, a high-ish fixed mortgage rate, let's say, over 5%. So if you've gotten some people on fixed right now, in a couple of years, maybe this is a good one to do. Let's call it 4, just so I can get some hits here. And then finally, probably a pretty important thing is saying, okay, well, actually the maturity date is sometime before, like I don't want to do it if someone's just renewed because the penalty would be too much, but maybe sometime in the next year, right? So let's apply those 3 filters. And so, yeah, fair enough. I don't have anything that pops up here, so not doing great justice on it. But if I take out that maturity date one, okay, we at least we have a couple here. And so this is pretty cool, right? That I can come in, I can see those people who have a high fixed rate mortgage. And what this allows me to do once I run this report, not only see these people, but right away come in and be able to shoot them a quick email. So very much so like the templates we are looking at, they're all available in this mass email section. And that allows me to come in here and maybe say, hey, do you know what, for these people, I want to tell them that they have a refinance opportunity, right? So it's really that simple, doing some quick filters, finding these highly eligible people and shooting them a quick email. Again, I like to do things kind of increasing importance. So maybe you shoot an email real quick. No one follows up. That's okay. Maybe you want to send them a text, right? And you can absolutely do that as well, right? So you can kind of use these tools as you need to, as you find maybe the importance. If you really want to kind of identify these people and you really think there's some good opportunity, maybe setting up a sequence like this would be useful. The other kind of really interesting thing with this that I'll show is that if you do an email, so it only works for email, you can actually do what's called a follow-up action. So if someone clicks that email indicating that maybe they're interested, then I can configure a follow-up task, right, to call that person maybe. So you're going to use, again, the tools and the engines that exist in the CRM already to do really smart things. So saying, hey, since the CRM tracks who clicks the email, as soon as they click it, I want to be able to do some follow-ups. So that's maybe the most basic example of a refinance opportunity. But it doesn't just exist for mortgages. It can also exist for your borrowers. So this is what I saw someone, a pretty top broker, doing recently, and I really, really liked it, and I want to share it with you guys. And it's related to reverse mortgages. I don't think it's something that a ton of people focus on, but I think there's opportunity there. I think that's something that sometimes overlooked, and I think it's worthwhile to tap into it a little bit. And so again, with your borrowers, of course, you're going to know their date of birth. And in Canada, we want to focus on those who are turning 55 or have turned 55 recently, because now they'd be eligible for some kind of maybe a chip or something like that, reverse mortgage. And so coming in here, I'm just going to do the exact same thing. I'm going to use the data that's come in from wherever. I'm going to use my filters to do something smart. Right. So I did this math beforehand. So if you know where I got these numbers, this is basically where we do it. But I can come in here and say, hey, I want to look at someone between the birth dates of, okay, what's 55 years ago? I think it was this one here. And then also maybe people who have turned 55 recently. So they have a birthday within 5 years of that. So between 55 and 60 is what I'm looking at. And so that's it, right? It's as simple as that. And it doesn't matter how big my database is. Now I have a very great list of highly qualified people who might be interested in a product that I have. And so it's as simple as that. And again, coming in here and shooting them an email or sending them a text or whatever that might look like. So this is another example of the exact same thing, just to kind of illustrate that point. The final thing that I'm going to do on the refinance opportunity front is do something I think is actually quite powerful. And I really like it. And again, I saw some top people doing this. I just thought it was just the smartest thing ever. And I think really right now in today's environment, the opportunity exists, I think, especially on those variable rate clients. For a long time, they're getting pretty good rates. Now they're creeping up. Maybe that's okay for some people, but maybe it's not okay for others. And I think kind of the role for mortgage broker is letting them know exactly the information so they can make their decision. And so, what that looks like can be different for each person. And I think it's really important to be personalized, right? If you just kind of come in there and say, hey, rates are changing, your interest rates are going up. They say, yeah, okay, whatever. But what does that mean for me? That's always the question. And I think if you can get ahead of that and tell them what it means for them, then again, you be that trusted advisor and it allows them in a better position to make a decision. So that's a lot of preamble, but what am I getting at here? So what I saw this person do is they came into here. This is the back end for the module setup, right? So when I am creating a mortgage or I have a mortgage in BluMortgage, these are the fields that I'm keeping track of. Things like amount and who's the borrower and who's the underwriter working this deal and what's their purchase price and all these different things here. But what I saw this person do is they came in here and they said, I actually want to do a brand new field. I'm going to make it a formula field. And I'm going to call this field payment amount increase. It's going to be a currency field and sure, 2 decimal places. And what they basically did is they said, okay, give me the amount of the deal. And of course, they might have bought down their principal a little bit. So it's not going to be exact, but it's going to be pretty close. And then they're going to say multiply this by, and then whatever the rate hike impact is. And I read somewhere, I think it was a 0.25. So I read it a while ago when we had those 0.25 rate increases. It's $12 for every 100,000. And the exact numbers don't matter so much, but that's about what it works out to. I think if it was a 0.25 increase. And then, okay, if it's recently like it was, a full 100 basis points, okay, this turns to from 12 to 48, whatever. And that's it, right? And so now I have this field on every single one of my deals that I'm calculating exactly the impact that these rate hikes are going to have. And so if I go into a mortgage, one of my variable rate mortgages, I have this pre-built filter, and I come in, you can see right here for Dylan, okay, he doesn't have an amount, so let's put one in. And what you can see is it exactly calculates how much, Diane, not Dylan, Diane is going to have an increase in interest payments. It's pretty powerful stuff. And in order to show Diane, all I need to do is come in here and send her a quick email. The template I'm going to use won't be exactly the same one because it's going to be slightly different wording. But basically what it's going to say is payment amount increase. Oops. Your payments changing. And obviously you want to make this a bit more thought out. But you come in here and you can first of all use a merge tag to put in her first name. Hi, Diane, your payment will increase by, and then I can put in that exact amount, payment amount increase, right? And so that's pretty cool, right? And so I'll just save this. Save now, sure, whatever folder, notifications, sure. And so now I can come in here, I can send that email to everybody, right? So in just a couple clicks and just a couple minutes there, I've calculated exactly for all my clients what a rate change means for them. I've put that into a template, and now I'm sending that template out to everybody. So I'm giving them the education that they need, and I'm being very personalized about it. And to take it one step further, what I often suggest for a lot of people is in that template here, maybe making it a bit more built out, right? Saying, hey, this is the increase, this is what I think is going to happen in terms of further rate increases. If you want to talk about a fixed mortgage, please let me know, right? And so what you're doing is you're using the data that you have to create personalized advice that leads to an action that can, generate some business for you. So it's a pretty powerful thing. It's a pretty cool thing, and it's something that, like I said, I saw 1 or 2 people do, and I was really quite impressed. So I wanted to share it with this group, and I think it's a great kind of tack to do. So that about wraps up the. I'll exit this one as well. The refinance opportunity section. The last 2 ones that I really wanted to quickly touch on. These ones will be maybe a little bit quicker, because we spent a lot of good time on that refinance opportunity stuff, is finding top clients and referral partners, and then maybe non-subject properties if we have time. So on the topic of finding top people, really it's just a report. And maybe you guys know reports and that sort of thing, but I just want to show it because I think it's a pretty cool one, and I think it's worthwhile for people to do. So coming in here, I'm just going to build a quick report. So this one here, I'm in reports. It's this tab here at the top. I'm going to hit create report, and specifically on my mortgages modules, because I want to run a report of deals that I've closed. But what I want to do, make sure that I do, is say that it's related to. And actually, you know what? I believe it's better to actually do it on my partners, right? So this is actually going to be because I'm doing it for my partners, because these are my referral partners that I care about. So I'm going to start at partners, and then I'm going to drop down into the mortgages in which they were a realtor on. So that's kind of the setup there. And then what I'm able to do here is I'm going to very quickly say, okay, I'm going to group all these rows by the partner name. I'm going to aggregate the columns by the amount, and aggregate just means kind of sum up or group together or something like that. I can take this, 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 and this, and really maybe this even. And finally, I want to do a filter to say, hey, only people who have actually closed, of course, so not just deals that have been referred that don't go anywhere. And the closing date is maybe just something recent, so current year and previous year. And now I'm going to run this report. And so that, again, took me just a minute or two, figured out some of those parameters there. And really quickly, I can see, hey, who are my top realtors? Who are my top people that I work with that do a lot of business with me? And maybe you know that off the top of your head, but I often find when people do this, there's some great surprises in here. And so I scroll through here, I go, okay, good. Whoa, wait a sec. There's Richard Realtorson and Tom the Realtor that I do a ton of business with, a lot of deals there, a lot of value, and maybe I should nurture that, right? So it's a very simple report, but very powerful. You can come in here and say, you know what, I've done 1.5 million with you in the past few years, Richard. Hey, let's go for coffee. I'd love to pick your brain or whatever that might be. But it allows you to kind of really hone in on who truly are your top referral partners. Maybe John Smith sends you a ton of deals, but doesn't close any, right? But Richard sends you really high quality leads that you can really kind of nurture there. So that's kind of a cool one. That was a little bit quick, I would say, but hopefully that it's kind of a cool one. Hopefully that provided some value for some people. And then the last thing that I wanted to kind of close things out on, just because this was something that we promised we talk about, and I think it's worthwhile to spend a minute or two on, is what we call non-subject properties. And really that's just, when someone does an application, they have a mortgage elsewhere on another property, following up on those. And so with a few of our integrations, not all, but most of them, we're actually able to, on that application itself, bring in those additional properties here, right? So you can see, okay, if I click on this, I have Marvin McCool, and if I click on his profile, I can see that I have a couple live deals with him, but I have a couple of these additional properties that he's done elsewhere, right? In Bayview Ave and Valleywood Drive, and I'm not doing those, right? And so I look at that and I say, hey, do you know what? For Marvin, that'd be great to follow up with him, especially as 2023 approaches, or well, this one's already passed. But doing that type of follow-up, because those are deals I know about, right? Those are products that I know I can sell him on, I can provide some value on him, and so why not? I want to follow up. But of course, the messaging that you have for Marvin isn't going to be exactly the same as if you close the deal. It's obviously going to be a little bit different. So I'm going to come back to this workflow that I did, and you can see here we have deals that are at stage mortgage closed. We're going to do this thing, so deals that I've closed. But what this workflow editor does, and this is what I was going to say, kind of coming back to, is I could add a second condition now, and I can say now, not people who have closed, but for those deals that are sitting in the additional properties section. Hit next, and it's exactly the same. Right, so it's not going to be the same messaging you'll do above, but it's the same kind of setup that you have. That you can come in here, you can maybe send a quick text, you can an email, a task, whatever makes the most sense for you. But the really kind of the trick is making sure the data gets in there, so kind of leveraging the integrations that we have, and then just doing a slight variation to your workflows. Make sure these people are being served with just slightly different wording and it's slightly more specific by using those conditions. So yeah, I can come in here, create a task. Maybe at 7 months, I want to follow up. And then after that, 30 days, maybe not as much, maybe, I don't know, 120 days after that, I want to notify via email again of this renewal reminder and sending at the best time. Maybe that's what my drip is. Now, that's a pretty sophisticated thing, right? So 7 months before, all my clients are going to be getting emails and task follow-ups. And all these additional properties, even I'm going to be following up and sending renewal reminders just to be kind of, again, that trusted advisor and being able to provide value for my clients. So we kind of touched on a bunch of different things there. I'm going to stop sharing, throw on my camera here. Yeah, so just to kind of summarize everything, we can kind of we started with kind of the renewals, the basics getting in there. You can use the BluMortgage ones or kind of using your own. Then we jumped into refinance opportunities, spent a lot of time there talking about kind of doing filters, sending emails and texts, and then being smart and using maybe some formulas to be very, very specific to each and every person, which was pretty cool. And we talked a little bit about reports, finding your top referral partners, how you can kind of nurture those types of relationships, find the high value ones and nurture them. And then finally, we closed out of talking about renewal opportunities, but in just a slightly different context, right? So in this context of subject property, non-subject properties. So that about wraps up all the things that I want to talk about. So I'll start by saying, or kind of finish by saying, thanks for listening and joining this webinar. We will be sending out this recording afterwards. If you saw some things that you really liked, we will be sending out a recording for you to kind of review on your own time. But in the meantime, I'm going to be on for the next many minutes, really as long as you guys need, as you have questions. Please go ahead. There should be a kind of a toolbar, maybe at the bottom of your screen there. There's a little question mark. If you click that, you'll be able to open up the question area, the Q&A area, and I'll just be diving into it. Happy to share my screen again, go into something if I went over something maybe a bit too quickly you want to see again. We can keep it anonymous, whatever. We can do that. So I'm looking now and I see a couple questions, so I'll kind of address those questions, and then hopefully that gives everyone else some time to think about their questions. Yeah, so there's one question talking about the data burst. So if you remember talking about that kind of reverse mortgage thing, does that data come over from Filogix and Finmo? That's the question. Yeah, it should, right? So it's always kind of dependent on, did that originally exist in Filogix or Finmo? I mean, if you closed a deal, probably, but if you didn't, maybe not. So yeah, if it exists in those places, we would be bringing over in our initial import and on an ongoing basis. We'll bring that over. The other question was about the non-subject properties. So kind of talking about at the end there, saying, hey, we can expand beyond just the deals we do to the deals we don't do, but they've included in their application. Does this come over in our different integrations? Is basically the nature of the question. So Filogix, we absolutely bring this over. I think it's just part of it. Finmo, it's an optional one, right? So there's actually a kind of a toggle where you can say yes or no if you want to bring those in, but that's part of it. And then Velocity, final one there, that's our big integrations. Not right now, but I think it's going to be coming very, very soon. So kind of stay tuned for that one. Okay, there's no more questions there. Okay, one more, and asking about the toggle. This person was particularly interested in Finmo, and that the toggle I was talking about sits in blue. So our support team can kind of, if you reach out to them, they can show you exactly where that sits. It's kind of in the back end settings area of BluMortgage. There's kind of a field that says additional properties or something like that, question mark, and you can just put in a yes, no, or something like that. So yeah, that's something that our support team would be happy to show you. Okay, another quick question here. Not using Filogix, but using Excel. So I think the question from this one person says, okay, if I use information from Filogix, but using Excel. So maybe I think that's what you're saying, is that right now you have information sitting in Excel that was originally from Filogix, but now it's in Excel. If that's the case, then yeah, you can take that. You can import it into BluMortgage. There's an import tool, and it does overwrite it if it's non-empty, right? So if you have, sitting in BluMortgage, January 1st, 1991, and you have your Excel sheet that says January 2nd, 1991 as a birth date, for example. When you import it, it's going to overwrite what sits there, right? So kind of think of it, whatever the most recent import or data dump, for lack of a better word, that's going to be the source of truth, right? So, okay, I import one thing today, and then I import another thing tomorrow. Well, the one tomorrow is going to be the source of truth, the most up-to-date information. That's the assumption that we make. Does that answer your question?
Hey, Dom.
Yeah, hi.
I also just released the other poll, the summer slowdown one.
Okay. Great. Yeah. So I guess, yeah, just to that point, for anybody who's still on, there was, I think, another kind of quick poll that we just released. So just to kind of gather some feedback, please feel free to provide a response there. We obviously welcome that feedback, so we'd appreciate it. Yeah, thanks. So one person was asking, hey, for that report, the one I did kind of quickly there, can we do it if it's a client referral instead of a partner referral, right? So, okay, I kind of showed if a realtor reaches out. Short answer is yes, absolutely you can. Just the only difference is going to be, at the beginning, I kind of selected partners and then the related mortgages. I'd have to do the clients or the borrowers. So I select the borrowers. That's going to be my primary list. Kind of think of the primary list as the thing that's going to be in the leftmost column, right? So what do I want to drive, kind of group things by and drive it by? So that's going to be my borrowers. And then I can kind of show their related or their referred mortgages and the amount associated with it. So it would work the same. It's just a little bit, you got to be just a little bit more careful. Not more careful, equally as careful, but just a slightly different thing that you do at the beginning. Okay, awesome. Well, no other answers trickling in, so I'll stay on here for another 2-3 minutes if you guys think it's something you want to throw it out there. But if not, again, thank you. I really do appreciate everyone taking time out of their day to join. We will be sending out this recording so everybody has it. And yeah, thank you very much. Okay, well, thanks again, guys. I'm going to be signing off, and you'll probably get kicked off here too. But thank you, and yeah, have a great rest of your week.